The consequences were swift and severe. The court handed down 3 years of probation and 180 hours of community service. The promising student found himself banned from school sports, stripped of his National Honor Society status, and dumped by his girlfriend just before senior prom. The aftermath of his arrest pushed Kutcher into a rebellious phase. During his time at the University of Iowa, his wild parties and chaotic behavior eventually got him evicted from his apartment. Many nights ended in blackouts, with mornings starting in confusion about the previous evening's events. But fate had different plans, and they began to unfold at the Airliner Bar in Iowa City. A chance encounter with a talent scout at the bar led to an unexpected suggestion: modeling. With nothing left to lose, Kutcher entered the Fresh Faces of Iowa modeling competition. His victory there prompted a bold decision, dropping out of biochemical engineering studies to pursue a modeling career in New York City. Standing at 6 feet and 2 inches tall, his striking looks caught the attention of several agencies at the International Modeling and Talent Association convention. Though he didn't win the competition, Kutcher secured a contract with Next Modeling Agency. Soon, his face graced major campaigns for Calvin Klein and Zoo York, but his ambitions stretched beyond the runway. When auditions for a new comedy sitcom in Los Angeles emerged, he took a risk that would define his career. In a stroke of extraordinary luck, Kutcher landed roles in 2 different shows on the same day. The first was a 1-hour TV drama about cowboy surfers called Wind on Water. The second was a little show called That 70s Show. Here's where Kutcher's instincts proved sharp: he passed on the surfer drama, which was cancelled after 6 episodes, and embraced the role of Michael Kello. The character, written specifically to play into Kutcher's natural comedic timing, would become his breakthrough. His starting salary on the show, while modest by later standards, marked the beginning of his ascent in Hollywood. But as Kutcher's star began to rise, a darker side of the entertainment industry started to reveal itself. The fresh-faced model-turned-actor found himself navigating increasingly murky waters, particularly when a new project called Punk began taking shape. More backlash today for Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis after their video explaining why they wrote letters of support for convicted rapist Danny Masterson. The 41-year-old actor arrived at court this morning in a blue suit, seeming very nervous. For over 2 decades, rumors have swirled about what really happened during Ashton Kutcher's meteoric rise to fame. Behind his signature smile and comedic charm lay a web of untold stories, hidden tragedies, and dark secrets that Hollywood managed to keep under wraps. But what pushed this seemingly carefree actor to finally break his silence? As court documents emerge and witnesses step forward, the true story behind Ashton Kutcher's 25-year journey is more complex than anyone imagined. It all began with a birth that would change the course of 2 lives forever, a tale of 2 brothers. The morning Diane Kutcher headed to the hospital to give birth, she had no idea she was carrying twins. In fact, it wasn't until 5 minutes after delivering her first son, Ashton, that doctors surprised her with news of a second baby. Michael Kutcher entered the world weighing just 4 pounds, immediately triggering concerns among medical staff. The complications during delivery had left Michael deprived of oxygen, leading to what would later be diagnosed as cerebral palsy. Growing up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, the Kutcher family approached Michael's condition with remarkable resilience. Rather than dwelling on limitations, they celebrated each brother's unique abilities. A young Ashton demonstrated extraordinary devotion to his twin, refusing to attend sleepovers unless Michael could join. But beneath his protective exterior, Ashton harbored a deep sense of guilt about his own health compared to his brother's struggles. The brothers' bond faced its greatest test during their 8th grade year when Michael developed what initially seemed like flu symptoms. The diagnosis was devastating: viral myocarditis, a condition causing his heart to dangerously enlarge. Doctors delivered the grim news that Michael had only 3 to 4 weeks to live. What happened next would haunt Ashton for decades. As he stood by his brother's hospital bed, Michael flatlined. In a moment of desperate panic, Ashton made an extraordinary proposal to his parents. He offered his own heart for his brother. The teenage Ashton, believing his heart would be a perfect match due to their twin status, was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. Fortunately, within 24 hours, a heart from an accident victim in another state became available, and Michael received a successful transplant. This brush with mortality profoundly shaped both brothers' futures. While Michael went on to become an advocate for organ donation and disability rights, Ashton carried the weight of this experience into his emerging adult life. The guilt of being the healthy twin, mixed with profound gratitude for his brother's survival, created a complex emotional foundation that would influence his later decisions. But just as the Kutcher family thought they had weathered their greatest storm, a different kind of trouble was brewing. During his senior year of high school, Ashton found himself caught up in an incident that would reshape his path entirely. As the Golden Boy's perfect image began to crack, no one could have predicted how this mishap would accidentally launch him toward Hollywood stardom. What exactly went down during that fateful night that turned a straight-A student into an overnight criminal? And how did it inadvertently lead to his big break? The making of Michael Kelso started with what seemed like a simple plan to steal test answers. However, this plan spiraled into a life-changing moment for Ashton Kutcher. Along with his cousin, he broke into Cedar Rapids, Washington High School, triggering a silent alarm that brought police racing to the scene. When his stepdad received the call about Ashton's arrest, his response was simple yet devastating: "Have a good night," followed by the click of the phone hanging up. What started as a simple idea for a prank show would soon spiral into a controversy that threatened to derail everything he'd built. Could Ashton Kutcher's attempt to revolutionize reality TV end up being his biggest mistake? Behind the pranks, what started as a hidden camera show called Harassment quickly became MTV's biggest nightmare. In January 2002, James and Lori Ann Ryan checked into the Hard Rock Hotel in Las Vegas for what they thought would be a relaxing vacation. Instead, they walked into a horrifying scene. Their hotel room appeared to be a crime scene, complete with what looked like a dead body surrounded by blood. As they tried to flee, actors posing as security guards blocked their escape, while another pretending to be a paramedic entered the room. The traumatized couple's response wasn't the laughter Kutcher and his production team had hoped for. Instead, it resulted in a $10 million lawsuit against MTV and Kutcher's production company, Catalyst. The Ryans sued for invasion of privacy, emotional distress, and fraud, among other claims. This wasn't even MTV's first brush with prank-related legal trouble. Just 8 months earlier, 2 teenage girls had sued the network after being sprayed with human excrement during the filming of another show called Dude, This Sucks. Despite this rocky start, Kutcher and his team refused to abandon the concept entirely. Instead, they made a crucial pivot. Rather than targeting unsuspecting civilians, they would focus their pranks on celebrities. This reimagined version, renamed Punk'd, debuted in March 2003 with a legendary premiere episode featuring Justin Timberlake. The episode showed Timberlake arriving home to find government agents confiscating his possessions over an alleged $900,000 in unpaid taxes. The prank was so convincing that Timberlake nearly broke down in tears, creating what Time magazine would later rank as the third greatest moment in reality TV history. The show's success was immediate and overwhelming. Its second season saw viewership surge to 7.4 million, marking a 55% increase from the first season. Meanwhile, Kutcher's production company, Catalyst, which he had co-founded with Jason Goldberg at just 22 years old, was proving to be more than just a vehicle for pranks. The young entrepreneur had recognized early that producing could offer far greater financial rewards than acting alone. This business acumen would later serve him well in unexpected ways. Punk didn't just succeed, it transformed into a cultural phenomenon. The phrase, "Am I being punked?" became part of everyday vocabulary, used whenever someone found themselves in an unbelievable situation. The mere suggestion that Ashton Kutcher might be hiding nearby with a camera crew became a running joke across America, cementing both the show's and Kutcher's place in pop culture history. However, even as Punk'd was reaching its peak, Kutcher was privately grappling with a horrific real-life event that would later haunt him. On a February night in 2001, what should have been a casual date turned into something far more sinister. As Kutcher prepared to pick up Ashley Ellerin, a 22-year-old fashion student, for their first date, neither of them could have known that a serial killer was watching. What really happened that night, and how did it connect to a series of disturbing events that would unfold years later? On February 21, 2001, Ashton Kutcher was scheduled to pick up Ashley Ellerin, a 22-year-old fashion design student, for a casual date. When he arrived at her Hollywood Hills home and found no response to his knocks, he peered through the window. Through the glass, he noticed what appeared to be red wine stains on the floor. Assuming she had left because he was running late, Kutcher departed. The next day, he would learn those stains weren't wine at all. Ashley had been brutally murdered by Michael Gargiulo, later known as the Hollywood Ripper. In a state of panic, Kutcher immediately contacted the police, telling detectives, "My fingerprints are on the door." The incident would haunt him for years to come, eventually leading to his testimony in court 18 years later. During the trial, Kutcher's detailed account of that night helped establish the timeline of Ashley's murder. But this tragic event took an even darker turn years later when new questions emerged about the circumstances surrounding that night. In a shocking development, Chrissy Bixler, the girlfriend of Kutcher's That 70s Show co-star Danny Masterson, made disturbing claims on social media surfaced when she posted a cryptic message stating, "Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone the night you called Danny on February 21, 2001. I heard everything. I heard the plan." While these allegations remained unverified, they cast a shadow over what was already a devastating chapter in Kutcher's life. The timing of these claims coincided with other controversies emerging around the cast of That 70s Show, creating a web of interconnected events that would ultimately impact Kutcher's career and personal life. During this period, Kutcher threw himself into his work, perhaps as a way to cope with the trauma. His next project, Just Married with Brittany Murphy, became a significant turning point. The romantic comedy grossed over $100 million worldwide, and his on-screen chemistry with Murphy translated into a brief off-screen romance. However, even this success came with criticism. At the 24th Golden Raspberry Awards, he received nominations for Worst Actor for all three of his 2003 films. In the years following the Ella-Inn tragedy, Kutcher began showing signs of wanting to make a more meaningful impact beyond entertainment. His experiences with violent crime and loss seemed to influence his later dedication to fighting exploitation and abuse. What started as a personal brush with tragedy would eventually lead him toward an unexpected new chapter in his life, one that would take him far from the Hollywood spotlight and into the world of Silicon Valley. While his acting career flourished, Kutcher was quietly building an empire in Silicon Valley. What began as a curiosity about emerging technologies transformed into one of Hollywood's most successful venture capital portfolios. Through early investments in companies like Uber, Airbnb, Skype, and Spotify, Kutcher demonstrated an uncanny ability to spot the next big thing. His estimated net worth of $200 million tells only part of the story. The true impact of his tech ventures reaches far beyond financial gains. It was the founding of Thorn, Digital Defenders of Children, that marked his most significant pivot. The organization, focused on fighting child sex trafficking, emerged from Kutcher's growing awareness of technology's darker side. Under his leadership, Thorn developed sophisticated software called Spotlight, which helps law enforcement identify trafficking victims and track down perpetrators. The impact has been substantial. In 2021 alone, Spotlight identified 3,977 victims, with a total of 24,366 victims rescued since the software's launch. Kutcher's tech ventures even intersected with his personal life in unexpected ways. During his early dating phase with Mila Kunis, she revealed to Jimmy Kimmel how Kutcher would ask her to test various dating apps, ostensibly for investment research. "He makes me go on all these websites," Kunis laughed during the interview. "What's the gay version of Tinder? Grindr? I've been on Grindr." This blend of personal and professional interest in technology became a defining characteristic of their relationship. In 2017, Kutcher's advocacy reached Congress when he testified about the horrific realities of child exploitation. His emotional testimony detailed witnessing footage of a child the same age as his own being abused by an American man. He explained how, while federal agents typically needed years to track down traffickers, Thorn's software could identify them in as little as 3 weeks, sometimes even 3 days. The success of Thorn led to expansion, and today the organization employs over 100 people dedicated to protecting children from sexual abuse. In 2022, Kutcher demonstrated his commitment by running the New York City Marathon, raising over $1 million for the cause. He has also been instrumental in partnering with over 2,700 law enforcement agencies that now use Thorn's technology. Behind the scenes, Kutcher's approach to tech investment was far more sophisticated than many realized. He co-founded A-Grade Investments with Ron Burkle and Guy Oseary, which turned a $30 million fund into $250 million in just 6 years. This success led to the creation of Sound Ventures, a successor fund that has backed over 60 companies across various sectors. What set Kutcher apart from other celebrity investors was his hands-on approach. He didn't just write checks, he immersed himself in the tech ecosystem. He studied market trends, attended developer conferences, and built relationships with founders. His appearance as a guest investor on Shark Tank in 2015 wasn't just for show, it demonstrated his genuine understanding of business fundamentals and market dynamics. Perhaps most surprisingly, Kutcher's tech expertise began influencing his acting choices. When he took over from Charlie Sheen on 2.5 Men, he negotiated for his character to be a tech entrepreneur rather than just another playboy. This subtle change allowed him to bring authenticity to the role, drawing from his real-world experience in Silicon Valley. His investment strategy often focused on companies that could make a social impact alongside financial returns. Beyond Thorne, he backed startups working on sustainable technology, healthcare innovation, and financial inclusion. Neighborly is a platform that helps people invest in municipal bonds to fund local community projects. The marriage of Ashton Kutcher's entertainment background with his tech-savvy approach also led to innovative content projects. One such project was Going From Broke, a series about helping young people overcome student debt, which garnered over 12 million views on Crackle. The show combined his understanding of compelling storytelling with his passion for financial technology and education. Yet, amidst all this success, Kutcher faced mounting pressure to address a growing controversy. His advocacy work through Thorne had earned him widespread respect, but his connection to former co-star Danny Masterson was about to test his credibility as a defender of abuse victims. How would his years of work protecting the vulnerable stand up against his loyalty to an old friend accused of serious crimes? The Masterson dilemma began when Danny Masterson, Kutcher's former That 70s Show co-star, faced sexual assault charges in 2023. Hollywood watched closely to see how Kutcher would respond. 5 women had come forward with accusations against Masterson, describing assaults that allegedly took place in the early 2000s. 3 of these women were fellow Scientologists, a religion Masterson had practiced since childhood. The trial, which began in October 2022, revealed disturbing testimonies. One of the victims was Masterson's former girlfriend, Chrissy Bixler, who provided detailed accounts of abuse. Despite Masterson maintaining his innocence and claiming the accusations were motivated by attention-seeking in the wake of the #MeToo movement, the evidence proved overwhelming. In May 2023, Masterson was convicted of sexually assaulting 2 women in 2003. What happened next shocked many of Kutcher's supporters. Both he and Mila Kunis wrote character letters to the judge requesting leniency in Masterson's sentencing. Kutcher's letter described Masterson as exceptionally honest and intentional, praising him as a role model. He wrote, "While I acknowledge that Danny has been found guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault and that the victims seek justice, I hope my testimony about his character is considered during sentencing." He went further, stating, "I don't believe he poses an ongoing threat to society, and it would be an additional injustice for his daughter to grow up without her father." The public reaction was swift and severe. Kutcher's advocacy work through Thorne, which had earned him respect as a champion against sexual exploitation, suddenly seemed at odds with his defense of a convicted sexual predator. Many pointed out the contradiction between his testimony to Congress about protecting victims and his support for Masterson. Despite their pleas, the judge sentenced Masterson to 30 years in prison. The fallout from the character letters severely damaged both Kutcher and Kunis's public image, leading them to issue a video apology on Instagram. They explained that the letters were written at the request of Masterson's family, who sought to provide perspective on his character for sentencing consideration. They emphasized that their intent wasn't to undermine the victims' testimonies or dismiss the gravity of the crimes. Re-traumatization, whether his anti-trafficking efforts were genuine or merely a calculated PR move, came into question. In early 2024, Kutcher stepped back from public appearances, focusing instead on his tech investments and family life. His work with Thorne continued, though with noticeably less media attention. The organization maintained its mission, with Spotlight continuing to aid law enforcement in identifying and rescuing trafficking victims. The Masterson controversy revealed a complex reality about Hollywood friendships and loyalty in the era of Me Too. Kutcher's decision to support Masterson, despite years of work protecting vulnerable individuals, highlighted the challenging intersections between personal relationships and moral obligations. His reputation as an advocate for victims' rights, built over more than a decade of work with Thorne, faced its greatest test, not from opposition to his cause but from his own actions in support of a friend. Today, Ashton Kutcher's legacy remains complicated. His journey from Iowa troublemaker to Hollywood star to tech investor shows remarkable evolution. His work with Thorne has undeniably helped thousands of trafficking victims, yet his support for Masterson raises questions about the limits of loyalty and the responsibilities that come with being an advocate for victims' rights. As Hollywood continues to reckon with its past and present sins, Kutcher's story serves as a reminder that even those who fight for justice can find themselves on the wrong side of history when personal loyalties clash with moral imperatives. From twin brothers facing life's earliest challenges to Silicon Valley success, then Hollywood stardom, to fighting real-world horrors, Ashton Kutcher's journey reveals how our choices in moments of crisis define us. While his support of Masterson has cast shadows on his advocacy work, his organization continues to save lives daily. What price should loyalty command when it conflicts with our moral compass? Share your thoughts below.